Welcome to the deep dive. Today we are opening up a really remarkable stack of source material. It maps out one of the most significant and, honestly, often opaque structural changes happening in finance right now.
Right.
Specifically, how AI and machine learning are just fundamentally rewriting the entire rulebook for consumer credit.
And this isn't just about, faster calculations. This is about unlocking hundreds of billions in previously inaccessible and actually safe lending.
That's the core insight, isn't it? We're moving well beyond the traditional, almost textbook lending techniques.
Exactly. The FICO scores, the rudimentary rules engines, that stuff has governed lending for decades. The material we have lays out this comprehensive five-part framework for how leading platforms are applying AI. They call them the 5 pillars.
Separation, automation, calibration, generalization, and personalization.
That's it. And the central, the high-stakes question we're answering today by looking at their real-world results is, does this technology actually matter? Does it move the needle?
And we are going to show you not just that it matters, but how it matters. Our mission is to unpack these 5 key applications and show you exactly how this technology can convert what used to look like unbearably high risk into a successful, high-performing loan.
And crucially, how these systems navigate the massive economic volatility that can just sink traditional lenders.
Okay, so let's unpack this first and I think most critical pillar, separation. This is really the foundational engine, just figuring out which borrowers are more or less likely to default on a relative basis.
And the sources provide just overwhelming evidence that this AI approach generates a radical separation in risk profiles, something the traditional models, they just can't touch it.
We can actually see this, right? I mean, it's visible when you look at how different models price loans.
Yeah, the data has this great chart. It's a random sample of borrowers, and it plots the range of rates offered by major online platforms. That's the gray bar, showing you the min and max APRs.
The typical industry offer.
Exactly. Then, plotted right against that, you see the AI-derived rate, which is just a single teal dot.
And here's where you really see the power of this new approach. That teal dot, it's often placed entirely outside the range of what the rest of the industry is seeing.
Completely. Sometimes it's way lower, meaning the model thinks the borrower is dramatically less risky than anyone else thinks. Or sometimes it's way higher.
And the sources note this happens. What was the number? About 70% of the time.
70% in their observed sample. That means for a huge majority of people, the machine learning model is identifying entirely new features of, stability or instability.
Things that traditional credit reporting and scoring systems completely miss.
They just don't see it. That 70% stat is stunning because it implies that for most people, the mainstream lending industry is just fundamentally mispricing their risk.
To really get the quality of that difference, let's look at that concrete example from the sources. A specific person who applied for a loan a few years back.
Right, the illustrative case.
So traditional models looked at this applicant and they saw a 600 FICO score.
Which is borderline, puts them right between non-prime and mid-prime.
They only had 5 years of credit history, $60,000 income. The traditional model predicted just a staggering 32% chance of default.
An immediate automated decline, no question.
But the AI model, the machine learning system, it was trained on a much broader, richer set of data.
Yeah, it processed the fact that this person held a Juris Doctor degree from the University of Pittsburgh and was working as a lawyer for the city of Philadelphia.
Which signals profound stability, professional, income, all of it.
And on top of that, their debt usage compared to their peers, people in similar stable jobs, was extremely low.
So the AI prediction completely flipped the script. Instead of that terrifying 32% default likelihood.
The AI model saw only a 2% chance of default.
Just 2%.
The conclusion wasn't just, oh, we should give this person a loan. It was, this person should get a really good loan, priced for prime risk, not subprime.
And the outcome.
It confirms the AI's insight completely. The borrower made 21 on-time payments and then fully prepaid the loan in month 22. A perfect loan.
A successful loan that was completely invisible to the old system.
Exactly. The traditional model would have punished them for being young, for not having a 20-year credit file despite having a stable professional job. The AI saw stability where the old model just saw insufficient data.
That's the power of better separation in a nutshell. But let's scale that up. What's the aggregate business implication?
Well, the sources have this great exercise. It's based on a big sample of loans from 2020 that have now fully played out so we can see how they actually performed.
Okay.
So first, let's say a lender decides to approve the top half of all applicants. a 50% approval rate.
Straight down the middle.
Using the traditional model to pick that top 50%, you end up with a 9% default rate. But if you use the AI model to select the best 50%, that default rate drops to 5%.
Wow, that's a huge difference in credit quality for the exact same number of loans.
It is. But usually, lenders don't solve for volume, they solve for a specific risk target.
Right, an acceptable loss rate.
Let's say the lender targets a 7.5% default rate. It's a pretty common number. To hit that target, the traditional model has to slash its approval rate way down to just 27%.
So they have to turn away almost 3/4 of the people who apply.
Just to keep their risk in check. Now, if you use the AI model, because its ability to rank risk, that separation is so much better. To solve for that exact same 7.5% default rate, the lender can approve 67% of applicants.
From 27% to 67%.
At the exact same level of risk.
That's the critical takeaway for you right there. Better separation isn't just a small improvement. It allows for a massive increase in who can get approved without taking on more losses. That's how this tech translates into huge market expansion. So if separation solves who is a good borrower, the next pillar, automation, solves for speed.
Getting that good loan into their hands before they go somewhere else.
And we've seen the percentage of fully automated loans just skyrocket from 40% in 2018 to about 90% today. That's incredibly fast scaling.
And that speed is just paramount. It drives conversion massively. The data shows a huge difference between loans that get an instant automated yes versus those that have to go to a manual review.
How big a difference?
Automated loans convert at roughly 3 times the rate. If you're selling credit, there is probably no single bigger factor in whether a borrower takes your product than giving them that instant approval.
And this 90% number, it's a little bit misleading, isn't it? There's a surprising counterintuitive fact in there.
There is. While 90% of the loans that actually get funded are fully automated, the rate for the total pool of applications is only about 75%.
So why the discrepancy?
It's because those fully automated applications convert so much better, 3 times better, that they end up being this huge inflated portion of the successful loans at the end.
Ah, I see. So the real opportunity isn't to get from 90 to, say, 92%. It's to push that base 75% application automation rate higher.
That's where the focus is now, trying to use machine learning to automate those last, trickiest 25% of applications.
Let's move to the third pillar, calibration.
Right. So if separation is about predicting relative risk, who's better or worse, calibration is about getting the aggregate level of defaults right for the whole portfolio.
This is what the loan buyers, the big institutional risk holders, really care about.
They want to know that if the model predicts the loan book will lose X amount, it actually loses X amount, not X plus 50%.
And this pillar is so important because it speaks to the inherent volatility of credit. Lending can be a terrible business when the macro environment suddenly turns against you.
And we saw that happen recently. The data from TransUnion is just stark. Starting around early 2021, the entire industry saw a 50% rise in personal loan delinquencies, 40% in auto, and a staggering 70% increase in credit card delinquencies.
The credit cycle turned, and it turned hard.
It did. And when that turn happened in early 2022, traditional machine learning models really struggled.
Why is that?
Because they tend to assume the near future will look a lot like the recent past. They saw this stable historical data and didn't immediately recognize this massive macro shift was the new reality.
And the cost of that struggle was pretty painful.
It was. Loans issued in Q1 of 2022 had a 59% excess loss variance. Now, what that means in plain English is, for every dollar they predicted they were going to lose on those loans, they actually lost $1.59.
That's a catastrophe for a risk manager.
A total catastrophe. And it persisted because the models took a really long time to catch up, about 9 quarters, almost 2.5 years to fully recalibrate.
So the solution was to invest in what the sources call dynamic macro handling. A critical AI update designed to respond in real time, not 9 quarters late.
The key technical change was giving the model time as a feature.
What does that mean?
It means they program the model to recognize that not all years are created equal. That time itself and the economic conditions at that time can be used with individual loan data to understand what's changing about the world fast.
So it forces the model to prioritize recent, relevant data over old, stable data when there's a shock to the system.
Exactly. And they updated the models much faster in response. And by doing that, they could backtest what would have happened if these new systems had been in place back in Q1 2022.
And the results?
A dramatic improvement. The models would have started responding to the shift in consumer behavior immediately.
So there would still be some catch-up, but
Yes, a couple of quarters of catch-up, but they would have eliminated the majority of that 59% variance instantly. And within just 3 quarters, by the end of that first year, the vast majority of that underperformance would have been gone.
bringing the loss variance to 0% or even slightly below.
Which demonstrates this powerful systemic resilience against the biggest risk in consumer lending, a generalized credit cycle turn.
That robust system of separation plus calibration brings us to the fourth pillar, generalization.
Which is really just the simple application of these proven techniques to entirely new product areas.
Taking what works in one area and applying it to another.
Exactly. Better risk ranking, better macro handling, high automation. You just roll it out. The sources list 4 new products here: small dollar relief lending, auto refi, auto retail, and eSloke's home equity lines of credit.
And there are different stages of maturity.
They are. Small dollar lending is the furthest along. It's got basically everything implemented, mainly because there are so many of those loans, so you get lots of training data.
Right.
Auto refi is older, so it has most of the techniques, but still needs a bit more data. Auto retail and eSloC are newer, so they're a couple of steps behind.
What's encouraging, though, is that the hard part is done, right? They don't have to invent these techniques from scratch.
That's the key. All the major techniques are already proven and debugged. The main constraint now is just scale. It's just accumulating enough data in each new product.
You need, what, 100,000 HELOC loans before you can use certain techniques? Maybe 1 million for others?
Exactly. But there's this long runway of proven tech just waiting to be applied to boost separation, calibration, and automation as each product hits that scale.
Which leads us to the final pillar, and this one feels like the new frontier: personalization.
It is. This is about applying AI after the loan is made, specifically in servicing and collections.
The motivation here is extremely strong. Reducing charge-offs and increasing revenue are really closely linked.
It's often 1-to-1. If you save 1% in charge-offs, you can gain 1% in revenue.
So what's the flaw in the current system?
It's a lack of precision. Interventions like offering loan modifications or bet settlements are done with these fixed one-size-fits-all rules.
So they're helpful, but not efficient.
Right. These programs are positive to the bottom line despite the fact that they help both the good faith borrower, the person who genuinely lost their job, and the opportunistic borrower who's just using it to delay payments.
And the promise of machine learning here is to finally separate those two populations.
Precisely, to move beyond generic rules and into behavioral prediction, even after the loan is made.
So you can target these high-leverage interventions, things like custom modifications or even specialized debt counseling.
Only to the people who will actually benefit from them and successfully repay the loan. It reduces the harm from opportunistic use and maximizes the support for those in genuine hardship.
And this all leads up to what the sources call the Holy Grail.
True AI agent servicing, which is about dramatically changing the cost structure of collections.
But the goal isn't just to cut costs.
Not at all. The strategic shift is to take those saved dollars and redirect them. You put them towards high-cost, high-leverage human interventions.
Like intensive one-on-one debt counseling.
Exactly. But only for that small percentage of borrowers where that human touch will make a measurable difference in reducing defaults. It's an efficiency model that's actually aimed at maximizing human impact.
So if we just step back for a second, this AI framework, it touches every single point in the consumer credit process.
From the initial application with separation and automation to global risk management with calibration.
And all the way through to post-loan servicing and recovery with personalization.
Yeah, it's the whole life cycle.
And the conclusion in the source material is pretty bold. It says that within just a couple of years, AI is going to enable the achievement of all 3 legs of the credit triangle.
The best rates and process for consumers, supported by a uniquely profitable and resilient model for the lender.
Across all major credit categories: HELOC, auto, personal loans.
It's a fundamental change. It really refutes that old idea that you have to choose between approving more people and controlling your losses. You can do both.
So here's the final provocative thought for you to explore. If AI is already this good at identifying stable, low-risk borrowers, the traditional models just reject, like that young lawyer with the 2% default risk. What other fields are fundamentally missing critical information by ignoring these kinds of comprehensive signals?
It's a great question.
Think about insurance pricing or employment screening or housing approvals. What does a true, well-informed risk assessment look like in the future when this kind of comprehensive signal is the norm and not the exception.